Hello and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. I am Megla in Singapore and I'm joined by Margaret and Kevin in Australia. Hi, Mark, Kevin. How's it going?
Hello, Megla. Good to
Hi,
see you again.
Megla.
Good to see you too. Good to see you more often now, right? With these Webinar
Yes,
Wednesdays.
it's going to keep us busy.
Exactly. So today we're going to be talking about photography, and we have Aaron Hughes from e-commerce Wala who's joining us. He's got a great presentation, lots of examples that he's going to be showing us of good and bad photos. But before we bring him on, we wanted to make an announcement. So first of all, this month is scheduled for the 30th and the 31st. So that's Friday, Saturday, 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks from
Two
now.
and a half weeks.
Yeah. And the great news is that one of the webinars or one of the lives on during WIS is going to be done in the evening of Asia and Australia time. So that's morning in the UK. So that means our friends in the UK will be able to join us live.
Yay!
That'll be
Yay!
great.
Yes, absolutely. So many people have been asking us to do this, during the morning time in the UK or at a good time because it's usually at 3 a.m. UK time. So yeah, that's the good news. So make sure that you join us on the 30th of October. We'll announce the timing soon, but it's going to be morning time in the UK. Okay, awesome. Who's over here with
Good
us?
stuff.
Mano. Hi, Mano. How's it going?
Hello, Mano. Ros Cooper. Hi,
Roz.
Mano.
Cuba.
Ros.
And Shaviki. Hi, how are you? Okay, awesome. So let's invite our guest, Aaron. Hey, Aaron, how are you?
Hey, how are y'all doing? Glad to be here.
Good.
Good. Good to see you, Aaron.
Yep.
Well, last year today we were in India and we were actually doing the conference. Do you remember, Aaron? You were actually presenting at the
Yeah.
conference in India.
Seems
So
like a
here we are.
lifetime ago.
Exactly. Here we are again.
It's gone so quick.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Absolutely. Cool.
Yeah, but it also seems like a lot, like Aaron says, it seems like a real long time ago as well, even though the time has gone quickly. Maybe because we're older than you, Aaron, but time goes quicker for us older people.
Well, I feel like I'm already telling my daughter, like acting as if like the times we used to meet in rooms with actual people was like a long time ago. We used to gather with people without mask and like talk. What?
Jeez, the next generation are going to grow up with some difficult things to deal with, aren't they?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, awesome. So let's get started. So Aaron has some slides. He's going to go over the slides first, and then we're going to take questions from the audience as well. So Aaron, if you're ready, I'm going to start sharing your screen here. And okay, there you go. All right, over to you, Aaron.
All right. Well, no one judge me based on my PowerPoint skills. I'm pretty basic. I'm not super detail oriented, but here we go. I wanted to start out just with a little bit of background on who I am. I'm originally from Arkansas in the U.S. and after college got a job as basically a sourcing agent for one U.S. company who wanted to expand operations to India, and basically was drinking from a fire hydrant going to India, not really understanding the language, the culture, the types of products that were there. But it was, even till today, I like to consider myself a lifetime learner, and so I've just continued to learn and made mistakes along the way. But 2018, I started selling my own products on Amazon, really as a learning experience because, how can we help these type of clients if I'm not really understanding their world? And so started learning how to sell on Amazon and how to make really good products, make good listings. So I'm not a massive seller. I'm a low six-figure seller, but, for 5 hours a week, it brings in a pretty good side income for our family. And a little over a year ago, we started with me and a buddy that's from Hyderabad, the city that we're in India, started the company called e-commerce Wala. We get this a lot. I just like the name. Wala basically is a person who does a thing in India. So like a chai wala is the guy who sells your chai. And so we wanted to be the e-commerce wallas and help companies and sellers like yourself continue to thrive and succeed on Amazon. And the two main ways we do that is product photography and editing, and then content writing for listings. So using keyword research with, we use Helium 10, Merchant Words, all those softwares. And we also offer full management services for clients as well. Companies, sellers not like yourself, companies who have their own website presence who just don't focus on Amazon. We run all that for them. And that's kind of the gist. We're actually, this picture on the bottom left is an older one. We now have 11 employees there in the office and a remote worker. And I'm basically remote right now, living the digital nomad life. That's why I added these pictures here down here. I'm in Turkey currently, which is a beautiful place. This is my wife and daughter and I on Mount Olympus. So we're living our best pandemic life, if you want to say that. So overview of today's talk. Again, I'm not going to go super into like the weeds on like, the exact requirements of images, like, 2000 by 2000 pixels, all that stuff you can find online. The main image should take 85% of the white space, all that kind of stuff. That's stuff that everyone pretty much knows. But the challenge of this talk is that photography is a very subjective thing, right? So like what looks good for you may not look good for someone else, but there are general rules of thumb to try to follow when you're creating your 1 through 7, image deck on your listing. And so we're just going to go through the different types of images. So your main image, infographics, sizing images, lifestyles, and then some other things that some people don't really talk about. So like BOGO charts or like comparison charts, brand images, etc. That can really help bolster your brand on Amazon and increase your conversion rate, and also create just brand awareness. But there's a few caveats. One being that like some of these categories overlap. You can have a sizing image and an infographic all in one. And so take what I say with a grain of salt. And also depending on the category you're in, the types of images will differ. You may not use a comparison chart for like a leather wallet, but you may use it for a more technical product or a dog treat or something that has ingredients. So you'll have to examine for yourself what's going to be best for you. And then also the last thing is just what you need to approach a photography agency like myself. I really try my hardest not to be a sleazy car salesman. I don't care if you guys use us or not. I think we have a great service, but if anything comes out of this, we just want to help your business grow. And so if we can introduce you to someone else who is a better fit for your company, then we will try to do that. But I want you to be prepared because like I've faced the clients who've come to us with basically nothing, and just both of us end up getting frustrated because, there's a lot of things that can happen to make the process easier for everyone involved. And then the couple caveats just to mention is that product photography, like it's really important. I'll talk about a few stats, but like if your product sucks, then the best photos in the world won't do you any good. You may get some sales for a little while, but as soon as those negative reviews come in, those photos are going to mean nothing. And so really the goal is like have a product you're proud of and represent it in a really good light. Don't represent it in like a deceitful light that it looks way better than it actually does, because you'll also get negative reviews like that. So the goal of this is to build a long-term listing. And a lot of people don't want to put in the money for photos in the beginning, but you have to think if this, product does well, you're going to have this listing for years and years to come, hopefully. And if it doesn't do well, that's just the cost of being an entrepreneur. But you really need to invest in your pictures. And the other thing is this PowerPoint is not revolutionary. It's not rocket science. It just comes down to execution. So you may walk away from this thinking like, wow, Aaron, that was not that great. Like I knew that. And that's okay. I want to keep it simple, and I want to just help you figure out how you can execute well with your images. And so these are just some stats on why it matters. And again, we all know this like logically with our brain. Like even when we shop on Amazon, I rely on pictures even more than reviews. I do read the reviews, but the images are just as important. And so 75% of shoppers rely on the images when deciding on a potential purchase. The only hope when you have sucky images is just they're going to be the only pro of that is that they're only going to be blown away if your product's really good. Like, wow, this is better than the pictures. But I would not recommend building a listing on that strategy because your click-through rate and your conversion rate is going to be low. And then 22% of returns occur because the product looks different in person. So this is the balance, right? Like you want your pictures to look great, but you don't want them to like look way more amazing than what the actual product looks like, because then customers are just going to be disappointed. If your product is leather and has natural scratches in it, you don't want to have your main image or any of your images have 0 scratches. Like there needs to be or texture or like artisanal look in the images that a customer knows, hey, like this is going to, like each piece is going to be different. Right. So you don't want to deceive customers and get returns. And also good visual content is more likely to get shared on social accounts. I won't really go into this, but there's a lot of cool things that you can do on influence.co and other websites to find Instagram influencers to send samples to, and to get really, really cool lifestyle images that you can use on your social media accounts. But for the sake of time, we're really just going to talk about your main image deck. And so another thing on just the subjective front, I just wanted to briefly talk through before I get into the weeds on just like the idea of continuity with images. And so it's really important when you're sending your information to a designer or photographer that you have some type of, branding format. I don't necessarily think you have to have a font picked out, but you need to have, whether it's colors or your logo, like everything needs to match. And this listing is honestly one of my favorite listings. Even when you look at the images from the, thumbnail size, it looks aesthetically pleasing. And the one thing that I love about their images is the continuity. Look at this blue line that goes across basically every image. Even their lifestyles, their call outs, they all have the same look. And it just, even the colors of the lifestyles match the product. So when you look down here, you basically see the same color palette. You have that like tan color and that dark blue, and you've got the green, and they've got their call out badges. And so whenever I'm getting ideas for products, I like to use listings like this as inspiration, especially for the designer, because it gives them an idea of how to really make these images mesh. And I'll show you some examples of some not so great ones. This, for an example, same product, same category, same first page listing, but the execution is really bad. Look, these were not taken with professional lighting. It just looks like, a teenager learning how to Photoshop, put some lines on here on Paint or something, and just wrote external dimension, just typed it on Microsoft Word. I mean, there needs to be like a design aspect of these pictures and some intentionality. And even this, like not cropping the background, looks really bad. You just have 2 pictures meshed together here. There's just no continuity. That here, again, this probably could look good, but right now you've got 2 circles and 2 squares, and it's just, you've got the gray backgrounds. And so none of these images, they just really don't flow together. Like when you go to this listing and this listing, it is a night and day difference on just clean. And like the lifestyle images communicate a point. And not only that, they tell me what to think too, just in case, because you can look at one lifestyle and interpret it different ways. And so I know that this thing is going to help keep my kids safe, and that's evoking an emotion as a parent. So that's really important when you're thinking about making your 1 through 7 images, is how you're going to create continuity. And a really simple way is just adding your logo in like the small corner of every image or something like that. So on the main image, again, we all know, like, I tend to always recommend terms of service to people. I try not to do things that are against terms of service, but I fully am aware that depending on what category you're in, Amazon plays by different rules. And I could go on a rant. It ticked me off so bad. I sell leather wallets, and my main image, and I'll show you examples of this, is an open wallet with cards in it. Everyone does it, but for some reason I got flagged for showing props in my wallet because it doesn't come with those cards. So again, you can use images like that, but it's like you could wake up one day and Amazon slap you on the wrist because you're technically using props or watermarks or logos. All the time, people are putting text and logos and images, and technically that's not against, or that's against terms of service. So we typically don't recommend that for main images, although you can do it and try to get away because certain categories, it's just everyone does it, and Amazon doesn't seem to police it. And then just the idea of like if you sell clothing, and so we work with one brand that's a clothing brand, and so we overhauled their entire listings because none of their main images had a model. And when you go look at clothes, those are the images that convert as someone who's wearing the product. But it has to be clear that like this is the product for sale, this shirt, and it can't be focused on a hat. So it's got to be focusing on the product. But then the main question to ask yourself, and not that maybe in every circumstance you would want to necessarily stick out, but how can you be different on page one? And I'll show you a couple listings just for an example and just an over-the-shoulder look of how I view it, which again may not be the law. It's just my opinion. But I would get creative with your product in the main image, whether it's, if everyone's showing their wallet closed, maybe you show yours open. Because when I want a wallet, I care about the inside, like how it looks. That's what's going to get me to click. Or if you have packaging, you want to include that somewhere on your in your main image, like behind your product, which again, Amazon's pulled one of mine for that too, although other people do it. And then the other thing to reassess if you have an existing listing that's not doing well, maybe, is just check your click-through rate. This is just a snapshot of a few of my products. These products are not doing well, and you can tell, you can go back and look, well, obviously my click-through rate's pretty low. And so now I'm starting with my team to assess, hey, let's do a different main image and see if we can increase this click-through rate. And then the other thing is just using PickFu. Most people that pick a main image, they pick it because they like it. But when you ask like all of your, friends and family unbiasedly, they may have actually preferred image too. And so PickFu is a way that you can crowdsource from people who don't know you and aren't going to tell you what you want to hear, to know which main image is best. And just to give a few examples, and again, these aren't perfect examples, but just as a customer, I'm sitting here scrolling, and a lot of the sellers, and again, there may be a reason for this, but they use kind of this similar, just one-dimensional closed wallet look. Whereas if I'm shopping, things kind of like this, or the open wallet kind of catch my attention because I can see the design, the design of the wallet. And what I care about is like, hey, what's the ID slot going to look like? I don't want to click into all these wallets just to find out the basic construction of a wallet. And even this one, they did more of like a vertical wallet just to be a little bit different. And so all those little things, it's like a science of psychology of what gets the customer to click. And again, obviously you see a lot of people doing things that aren't technically against terms of service, but the idea is to think creatively. Here's another random product I found. This is not a great main image. It looks very poorly photoshopped. And then you got these two people with the same exact angle. I actually like this one, even though you can't see the entire handle. It really shows the detail of this metal dough whisk really well, and the detail of the wood. Whereas when you come down, like to this one, for example, it's like, what is this? Like, this is not necessary because this is a terrible image. And so again, they're thinking right, like they're trying to be creative, but it was just poor execution. So yeah, just thinking how you can be different on the main image. Here's a few more examples. A few things that I never really knew is that you can also include ingredients on your main image. This was a picture we did for a client that was selling a 3-pack of natural deodorant, and it's lavender scented. And so to really help like spotlight that scent, we added some lavender flowers, or I don't know technically if it's a flower, but lavender accent from the side of the can. And so, and these are the other bamboo box examples from page 1, where this is just a really well done, well lit image of the product, very aesthetically pleasing, and it also neatly lays out like everything that's included. Whereas this one, like the lighting is horrible, and honestly, it's kind of hard to tell what this is. I mean, there's a cheap bow photoshopped on some products that I don't even know what they are. So again, it pays to have someone that has a professional studio who can do good lighting. Here's another example of ingredients that you can add. So this obviously has vitamin C with orange right there. And then this is an example of just like the packaging. It's a really, really good, digitally enhanced like package box of what it comes in. And so it's important too that we have a client right now who sent us the samples from their Indian supplier, and the boxes just really weren't that good. And so we're going to have to go through and Photoshop it to make it look really enhanced like this, because you don't want to put your packaging if it's not obviously a good packaging box that you want to like show your customers. But it's also just a unique image. Like it's very well spaced out. So now I'll just kind of briefly talk about infographics. I think infographics are a really important part of your listing because it's honestly a lot of times some of your coolest listings that are the coolest images that have your main call out. So in the infographic, your main point is the unique selling features of your product that you're writing in your bullets. This is like a way to visually make that come to life. And so instead of reading the text, which some customers may not read all your bullet points, it's a way to just for them to see, hey, in 1 5-second look, like I know what the product's features are. And so what most people do, a lot of big sellers, is they kind of have your product front and center, and they've got, these little bubbles with like zoom in features of the product or lifestyle images in those bubbles or squares. And that honestly is a very you see a lot of the top sellers doing that because it's a very aesthetically pleasing way to make an infographic. This was one we did for a client a while back. Again, it's a belt, right? So like we didn't feel necessarily the need to do a whole bunch of zoom in images because it's a belt. But there are a lot of cool things about the belt that are good to talk about. The fact that it's a patented Cobra buckle. And then just to explain some background here to talk about understanding your customer avatar, you have to know who you're going after with these products, right? This belt, actually, this company was featured on the movie Black Panther. And so we had a really, really cool image of the main character wearing the belt, like from the movie. And we sent it to him and we started thinking and asking people about the picture. And the type of person that wears this belt are like your first responder type people, like your country people from America, like that are firefighters or, going to emergency accidents and, having to cause, you can use this belt to like pull someone from a wreck or crazy things like that. Cause it, can withstand 5,000 pounds. And so we ended up going with a firefighter wearing it because it really fit the brand more than the Black Panther did. Even though it was really cool, this is a way to kind of create that connection to the customer. And then it's also just got aesthetically pleasing, like color matching boxes here. And so this doesn't look bad in my opinion to not have it in a box or anything, but I'll show you some examples of where it does look bad. And this is just one I found on Amazon. I think it's a fairly technical product, and so that's why there is a decent amount of information. But I just think it's really well done. I think the lines going to the information, it looks good, and the image is very sharp. And then you've got some other badges down here that show the different type of hooks that come with the product. And this is an example of one we did for a client so I'm trying to show you various types of products. So this is a food-based product. It doesn't necessarily have zoomable like call outs that you would have, but it does have ingredients. And so we try to find call out badges that represent the ingredients. So that way you're not just writing, 5 grams of net carbs, because customers are attracted to images. They're attracted to call outs like this. And so it's a visual representation of what the nutrition facts are. Instead of just showing the nutrition label, this is a much more aesthetically way to show that. And it's got the salted caramel type salt rocks here, the pink salt rocks that match the brand, and the flavor inside, and the spoon of peanut butter to kind of like, oh, wow, it's tasty. So just a visually appealing way to do an infographic. These were ones that I don't think the execution was well done. The text is just, it looks very unorganized. And not that I'm a neat freak or anything, but it honestly gives me a little anxiety to look at this image. There's just a lot going on. And I think the way that it's organized makes it look messier than what it actually is. And I'll show you an image from this same listing later on, and they use a completely different like color scheme and setup with the text. And so those things need to match. And ideally you would have one product on here with like circles with these different things around it. So that way your eyes are drawn to the product and not like, I don't even know what to look at. I know this is the same thing, but they look like different things. So, and again, this was another one in a group I'm in, someone who used someone on Fiverr. And I'm not knocking Fiverr, and I'll show you how to hopefully go to this and get your money's worth. But there's a lot of text, first off. And so ideally you would try to simplify as much as possible, but also the zoom in images really are not great. One, I would remove the backgrounds, zoom in way more, because I can't even, I mean, on Amazon, when you zoom in, it'll be better, but you really can't even see what this stuff is. And it's really dark brown leather. And so since it doesn't have the proper lighting, it just looks like a brown blob. And I would personally probably increase the size of this and have these images like drawing arrows to this specific area that you're talking about. So like this would have an arrow going to the zipper. And I would zoom in, make the lighting better, and shorten some of the text. And maybe change, you know, you don't necessarily need these numbers. They just take away from the space that you have. So I don't think this is like, you know, the worst infographic, but I just think there's a lot that could be done to make it, you know, improved. And then moving into sizing. So again, like I said, depending on the product, this is a journal that we did for a client, and it's a journal. Like no matter how much, whatever way you dress it up, it's a journal. A sizing image just by itself is kind of boring. And so we combined the kind of like the infographic and the size together to really show a snapshot of what this journal is. So this is like a kind of like for entrepreneurs, like a, you know, calendar / motivational quotes, you know, it lets you set goals. And so again, the color is intentional. It matches the branding, but it's just a unique way to set up the image that shows, and we even have a lifestyle in here to show what the journal is and what it's about, and, you know, the size of it. And then a couple other sizings. This is from that same listing. Again, just aesthetically pleasing. Like even the call outs are in a nice blue box that point to what it's talking about. And even the sizing lines here is unique. Most people just, you know, not that anything's wrong with this, but it's just a unique way to do your sizing. And it's got your confidence badges, which, you know, you can get these on Google Images or anything like that to use some of these main like eco-friendly badges that are just a good addition to images to take up a little bit more white space, because you don't want like a ton of white space. And then this was one we did for a client. They were getting complaints that customers were getting confused on the size of the glasses and ordering the wrong one. And so this is just a simple way to show the difference of the 15-ounce and 11-ounce cup with the company's branding and Made in France badge and everything on there. So really, I mean, if you take the banner away, it's a relatively boring image. And that's why, you know, adding these little branding things in there make it so much more like aesthetically pleasing to the eye. This is from that same company. And so if you can remember back, you know, this is their image here with the black text. This is their other image where, you know, you've got different colors that don't really have anything to do with the brand. They're just different colors to stick out. And so there's just a lot going on. And if you were to just organize this differently, I think you could still have the same information and have it look less messy. And then this one is just, there's just no like intentionality here. And again, it's not to say these products don't sell well, but it's just, it's not aesthetically pleasing. And it's, as a customer, I'm having to sit here and think, okay, what's the length of the wallet? Okay, what's the height? Like, it's like, okay, I guess this is 475. And so it's just lazy, you know, put the dimensions on the line. Don't just type up here on Word and Times New Roman, you know, the dimensions. And there's just a lot of white space. I mean, you could add some shadow or a reflection of the product here or some other call out or something to kind of take some of that white space away. Okay, so lifestyles. I don't know if most people know this, so I want to say it just to be clear. Most people on Amazon are using stock images for lifestyle photos. There's not a lot of, you know, small mom and pop sellers like ourselves who are paying for like legit model type images on Amazon. And I had a client that was shocked when they came to us about that, because we also just don't have a million, you know, props in our office to do real images. And to be quite frank, even if you were to do a real image, most times, unless you're using a legit professional, they just don't turn out as good as a stock image. And so, for example, that, you know, this is just a stock image of, you know, a lady making or putting some juice. Well, you can find stock images just like it. I don't for sure know if it's stock, but, you know, you just crop your collagen peptide bottle right there. You've got her pouring it into her smoothie. And this is their avatar. Like, this is for people who are trying to live healthy, who are fit. And that's why it's also got on here like this, drive your fitness goal to a new level, right? Like, you're telling the customer with this call out what to basically think, or it's like evoking that emotion of why they want it. I try not to have lifestyles that do not have call outs, because it just makes the image better, and it helps drive your point home. Instead of, without this call out, it's like, okay, a lady doing yoga, that's cool. What does that have to do with collagen powder? And so that's, you're telling them what it has to do. This is a one we did a few days ago for a client, a little bit different type of infographic, but just for the product. I mean, it's just the 4 steps of the product, real simple. Place, measure, order, receive. And this was an example of someone, like, this company had these images done. And so for this type of infographic, it'd be a little hard to do stock photos. And so you can work with the photographer or, someone who's got a professional camera to kind of take images like this. But yeah, it's just a really aesthetically pleasing way to kind of show the features of the product and how it works. And then here's some other more basic ones that probably are more commonly found. This is just someone using the deodorant for that same client, but we're describing the selling point of the product. Like, this is an all natural, vegan, organic deodorant. Like, we don't use, harmful things. And it shows, the type of person who buys this product, putting it on their armpit. So sorry for showing you an armpit on here. And, this, for example, stock image of 2, healthy looking dogs. This is a dog supplement company, and it's got a confidence badge here, with their logo on here. And all it says is healthier skin and coat, plain and simple. If you were to just show the dogs, then you could interpret that a lot of different ways. But also the call out, matches the branding of the bottle and the brand really well. And so these are some poor examples of what I would call clearly photoshopped, right? Like, if you go on Fiverr and pay a guy $10 to put an image, most likely you're going to get something like this, because it really takes time. Like, people think with Photoshop, I don't know if people think this, but that you just, copy paste the product on some lifestyle image. But you really have to do a lot of work with shadow to make it look real. And this product, there's really not a lot of shadow. It's very clearly photoshopped. Not a good effort, not a good image. Same thing here. One, just, I question the choice of lifestyle image. It's, a dirty towel on a rack. It doesn't really have like a customer avatar, maybe at the sink using it with a bag next to it. Like, you could have used a better image here. But it also just clearly looks photoshopped. Like, they just, copy pasted it here, which is what everyone's doing, but the execution is poor, right? They're not making the shadow good. They're not making it look real, where you can hardly even tell. And then the other side of the spectrum are lifestyle images that I like to say are, look like they were shot by your iPhone in your living room. And again, some products are different than others. This was like a gender reveal kit, so it's honestly a relatively difficult product to shoot, but it just doesn't look great because it looks like I did this in my living room. So it shows the product in use, and it's not a bad image, but it's not very professional. And for someone who's wanting to scale their business, I mean, you really need to invest in a better image. This listing, for example, too, not bad props, like, a decent image, but the look of the image is not high quality. It also looks just kind of like it was shot, which it was shot probably on a factory's, dining room table or something like that. This listing, funny thing is that the images are horrible, but the reviews are amazing. So it just goes to show that it's not the end all be all. And then gift lifestyle images. So if your product is giftable, which is what I like to focus on, show the person who would ideally receive this product, getting the gift. Like, this product here is a minimalist wallet that a lot of, business professionals or young professionals are switching to. And so it's a beautifully matched image of, a girlfriend or wife giving her boyfriend or husband this, slim minimalist wallet. And so if I'm a girlfriend or husband or wife shopping for my significant other, this is going to evoke that emotion of like, oh wow, that's like, he would love this product. And then again, down here, this is like a lavender gift basket or something, which I'm assuming is, maybe for elderly people. I don't know if they're matching this right, but let's pretend like they are. I would say the banner is poor execution. It's just a white bar, but the image itself, evokes emotion. Like it's a good image to match the product. I think. I could be wrong. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. But also like, dear mom, thank you. So like, this is a great image to have around Mother's Day. And you can even swap images out to match different holidays in the US or whatever country you're selling in, because that will definitely get attention. And the other thing I'll talk through is a few different types of these types of images, but typically this is going to be like one of your last images in the deck. And you can do it multiple ways. But the purpose is to get customers to buy more, because the more they buy, the better your conversion rate is. If a customer in one transaction buys 2 of your products, that increases your conversion rate actually. And so especially like with food products or like replenishables, you want to encourage customers with discounts to buy more, because it's better for you in the long run when someone's buying more than one product. So, and for example, I've got a client who sells printer ink like accessories, ink cartridges, all types of stuff. And so he didn't have any photo like this on his listings. And so as soon as we implemented an image for his all of his listings across the board, it was just generic, hey, buy 2 of any product, get this % off. His average order size went from 1.2 to about 1.5 in the course of a few months. And so it does make a difference whenever customers, because when you get on a listing, most customers don't always know how to find your other products. And so this is a great way to educate customers on other product offerings. I do this with my own products because they're very similar. Whoever may buy one wallet may buy the other style of wallet or the other wood products that I sell. So I use products to educate customers on everything I sell, and then I reward them for buying 2 or more of those products. And depending on the product, a comparison chart is really important. And this is just an example of like poorly executed versus, well done. Like I love this chart. It's just very nice to look at. And if I'm a dog lover, I would just be eating this up. And I like the idea of, not calling out competitors, just competitor 1, 2. They don't need to know who it is. And I don't even think you can list them, but it clearly shows why this product is superior. It's got more Newton, more omega-3, more omega-6, vitamin E, same as that one there. But it's just a very easy graph that looks good and says, hey, what's inside matters. There's other competitors that sell similar things, but what's inside ours is superior. And this one is just very boring to look at. Like personally, having ADD, I would not even read all of this because it's a little overwhelming. Whereas this, with the color and the dog, it's a little more inviting to look at. And then another thing, if you sell apparel or clothing, most people, the clothing category is relatively neglected with good listings like images and content. Most people will just throw up a sizing chart like this and call it good. But this was a brand we worked with to create just a more fun sizing chart, because typically they're pretty boring. And so we still have the same information here, but it shows someone wearing the product, and it has one call out of just the fabric and why it's a good fabric. And just a call out up here too with the logo. So again, they're just creative ways to help you think through how can you make this image more, appealing to customers. And so the last thing to really talk about is just what you really need to approach someone like me. And again, whether you come to me or not, that's your wish. Doesn't matter to us. We hope that you come to us because we like serving you guys, and especially the people from Megala's group that come to us. We love, serving at a high level and helping you sell your products. But I will just say from experience, we require people to send us a brief up front. The reason being is this is art. It's a very subjective thing. And so you could pay us double or triple what we charge if you want us to do it for you. But we try not to do that because what we come up with could be a totally different vision of what you want. And what this does is it helps combat this back and forth we include 2 rounds of revisions in our package, but we don't want to sit here and go back and forth 10 different times with clients over, hey, change this, now change this. And we've gotten clients like that, and we refund the money and we say, I'm sorry, but we just can't help you. Because we don't want to frustrate you, and we don't want us to be frustrated when it could be easily avoided. And so what we do is we send an example brief to you of like, hey, here's image 1. Here is a inspirational image to give you an idea of what I'm looking for, or a competitor image. And you describe what you want. I want the product, facing this direction, full 85% full in the image with my logo showing. And so you're describing what you want. You're giving an inspirational or competitor image to show an example, if applicable. Sometimes there's not always a image that you want. And then just knowing, and you're doing that image 1, image 2, image 3. So, and then for the infographics, what call outs do you want? Because we can come out with call outs, but we don't know your product like you do, or your business. And so whether it's handmade by artisans, or, premium hand tooled galvanized iron, like we need to know those things to really make these infographics good. Otherwise, we're just kind of like guessing. And then you're going to get in and say, hey, well, that's not even true of my product. And so also know, then this is true for not just third culture or a different culture, but even people in your culture. What isn't communicated is assumed. And so if you just say, hey, give me an image of a sunflower, there's a lot of different ways that I can have an image of a sunflower. A lot of different, and you're talking about really creative people if they're in photography. And so we had a client recently that I refunded the money in full, even though there was a lot of issues there, that it just got to a point where we just couldn't do anything, because we'd get revisions back that were incomplete 1-sentence revisions. And so, we have to have communication from you on what to fix and how to fix it. And we like to hop on Zoom calls with people, just because it makes the process easier. Like, the whole goal of this is to make this easy for you. And so that's why we're just being upfront about all these things, because the last thing we want to do is have people get frustrated and, have to do refunds or whatever it is. And so we just try to be openly transparent and not have these, surprise gotcha moments on you. And then the other thing is just expect revisions. Even if you describe the product in perfect detail, there's going to be images that once you see the actual image, you'll want to tweak things. So that's why we include 2 rounds of edits. And we tried to not go over that at all. And that's why these details matter, because we don't want to go over 2 rounds of edits. Otherwise, we get into this constant back and forth of, hey, tweak this, tweak that. And so, but those are to be expected. And then after a couple of rounds, those images should be exactly how you want it. But just to, have clear expectations. And so, we can take some questions now. And this is just a little bit about our company and just our pricing structure. We do more than just images. We also do copies for listings. But the most popular package people come to us with is this one right here, which includes, getting your physical samples. We take the images and we do the 7 edited and enhanced images for you, including the stock images, infographic, all that kind of stuff, and the 2 rounds of edits. But we've also had people come to us with raw images that we take and make better. We try not to do that because we didn't take the images. And so we're kind of, putting our reputation at risk based on the images we get. But we can do that. And then we charge $50 per variation. So that's assuming that the variation is maybe a different color, that the images are basically the exact same. We're just putting the different product in the same image, if that makes sense. And for each different type of product, it's just the same fee. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got. And I'd love to answer questions, because I know that was a lot of talking and a lot of subjective opinions, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that was really good, Aaron. That was just so much information. And let me see if there are any questions. Mark, do you have any questions? You need to unmute yourself. Let me just take a look at this as well.
Yeah, well, first, that was a great presentation, Aaron.
Hey, thank you. I did my best.
I think, go on, Margaret, you go first, because I know you sort of got.
Yeah, look, I think it was fantastic, and I agree with Aaron. Look, I mean, people just expect you to be a mind reader, and I think if you don't give any photographer a decent brief, like with my own products, I always write a draft listing, have my listing ready to go, my A+ content virtually written, and then I do a list of all the points that I want featured, or it might be things in my opposition's points that have got a bad review that I want to highlight, all those things in a list. So then whoever's doing the photographs knows what I want, and it saves going back and forwards and getting something that's totally off what you want. And I think, once you sort of get that somebody, it makes their life so much easier and gives you probably half the amount of revisions and heartache, because it is very difficult to think somebody, you've got this picture of a blue ball on a beach or something, and then you send it away and it doesn't come back like that and you're disappointed. I think too, sometimes people just have these visions, but they don't convey what their vision or their theme is to be. So I think, I think, you've got to, help every photographer. And Aaron's right. It must. I'm glad I'm not Aaron, because I'd lose my cool.
I don't want to sound like a mean guy. I'm really saying this to help both of us, because I didn't start this company to be yelled at by people of oh, you're doing a terrible job when you didn't tell me what to do. I don't need that in my life, and so I'll just tell them to go. We want to work with people who are collaborators, that we can come alongside their brand. And the other important thing that you could utilize with this, because I know just what Margaret, when she was talking, it's it's so subjective, right? So typing out what you want, what does that even mean? So a tool that we utilize all the time is Loom, and there's other tools like it, but it's a screen, you can record your screen and make a video to explain your points in detail, and it just gives you a URL that you can share, so that way our team in India can see exactly, because when you're able to talk about it on a screen share, it's easier to describe what you want versus typing it out. And so we've had a lot of clients who will send us Looms, and it just makes the process a lot easier.
Aaron, I love the way that you sort of highlighted the, a sort of Amazon sort of image versus, I know there's good and bad in the images, but the real sort of, I know we try to get those images all the time. What's really or strictly related to Amazon, and how people want to see that image, when they're scrolling through Amazon. And that picture, some of the pictures you just showed us, that's instantly sells that product.
Yeah, and that's why with the infographics in particular, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. These big sellers, they're doing similar things for a reason, and it's because it works. So the structure of those infographics, all the big sellers will do very similar things. Yeah. And I'm actually even the new products I'm launching, we're in the process right now of doing some infographics that look similar, but instead of bubbles, we're using squares, which are more it takes up more room better. Instead of the circles, there's more white space, versus a square, you're able to really get rid of a lot of that negative white space.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's great.
And I think
go ahead.
No, I think people have got to be really careful. I mean, I've seen people have gone and spent thousands with a photographer. Oh, he's the best in Sydney or Brisbane or wherever. But he's a beautiful photographer, but he doesn't know the Amazon rules. He doesn't know what Amazon requires. And it's so sad, because they have probably spent a fortune more than they need to. And they really need to send them somewhere and get them all photoshopped or infographics and things done to be Amazonable photos, really, because otherwise people put 20 different things in the picture to make it look beautiful, but they don't sell any of that. So then the people are thinking, what am I buying? Do I get this, and this in the box? Because that's what it looks like. So I think, sometimes I think it's a better choice to try and get a photographer who has experience with working with Amazon, because that way they know a lot of the, everything that's needed to fit the Amazon.
Exactly. What about mobile-friendly images, Aaron? Is there anything that people need to keep in mind to make sure that their images are mobile-friendly?
Well, the same image, you'll use that same image deck even on the mobile phone, but the main thing is following the pixels. We use 2000 by 2000 pixels for zoomability. And so when you are on a phone, you want your image to be zoomable, to be clear. But we kind of follow the same pattern for that as well. On the phone though, even with the content, notice that stuff's going to be different on the phone versus your like laptop or computer. But we follow a very similar pattern for like the phone as well.
Okay. Let's take some comments. So Roz is saying, Aaron, so glad to hear. Yeah, go ahead.
I will say, like on the phone, that's why that infographic I showed with that tiny text. It's like that's why you want stuff to be like, even when you zoom, you can see it, but on the phone, it's like you're on a tiny phone. So like, don't have tiny text that you can't read. You know, you have to think about that for sure.
Right. So Roz is saying, so glad to hear you're going down this road with photography. You're on the ground there in India and have such a good network. Yes. Okay, are we allowed to put stock photos with the model's face clearly shown, assuming the stock is free on the web? Mabel is asking.
Yeah, so we take most of our stock images from Shutterstock. You do have to use them, like ideally we're getting them from these websites where we're paying for them, like for the purpose of using them. So they're royalty free, like we're allowed to use them. And that's why even if you go on Google Images, a lot of those images are like, they have a watermark on them because you're not technically allowed to use those without permission or paying for it. So we use Shutterstock and a few other websites that have free designs that, you know, there's no issue with using them.
Ashley is saying, great presentation.
Thanks, Ashley.
Hey, Sangeeta. Michelle is here. Hi, Michelle. Okay, Michelle has a question. How do you share your files with us once photos are done?
Typically, we're using Google Drive. That's what we've seen be most effective versus, you know, a lot of times we just attach them in emails. They get like mixed around, and especially with revisions, it's easier to just drag and drop using the same link. We have a couple clients that we're like still doing some like big projects, like dozens of SKUs. And so we sometimes will utilize Microsoft Teams to like add them as a guest so that they can see all the different files and sections. But Google Drive is typically what we're sending people, and they have like editor access to be able to go in and like view the images and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So Rajat is asking, which is the best software for designing infographic images?
So I'm not the one who actually does this, but I mean, we use Photoshop. That's the main thing we use to make all of our images.
Yeah. I guess another software is Canva. If you do want to DIY your infographics or images, Canva is really, really, really good. They've got so many templates. I'm not sure if they have, e-commerce templates or infographics and all, but you can take a look, Rajat. They do have a lot of templates for social media posts, and they've also added videos and music nowadays. So definitely check out Canva. Okay, Robin has a question. Can you take pictures from a supplier and put them into lifestyle shots and do the infographics for a website?
Yeah, so that's our $199 package, where that's like you give us the raw image and we make the edits. But like I said, you just have to be careful with that because I don't know what kind of camera the supplier took these shots with, and it kind of puts our reputation at risk where if it's not a high quality image and like we're trying to blow it up on an image, it may look pixelated or stuff like that. So like we can do it. We just really try to encourage people to send us the samples because especially if it's in India, it really doesn't take much to send it to us, and we can always send the product back to them if they need to. It just always works out better that way for both parties, I think.
Right. So Roz saying, I love that percentage off for multiple products. A great slide. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the marketer in me. You know, you got to think like, how can you get them to buy more?
Especially if it's a giftable product. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you mentioned something about influencers. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, so I've done this with my own brand. You can use stock images, but I've also worked with, and this is not just to get the image. This was actually the added benefit of doing this. But I've found on influence.co as the website, not com, co. You can kind of search for Instagram influencers with like certain parameters that like match the brand. And so I found, for example, I sell like these wood, like a wood product, and this guy has a really cool Instagram, but he's got like now he's got more. When I first found him, it was like 10 to 15,000 followers. And so I tried to find people in that range because most of the times they're willing to post for just a free sample. And they're trying to make really cool pictures because they're trying to grow their audience. And so once they post the image, that image is you can use that image on your Amazon. And I use a lot of the images on my personal brand come from those influencers that I've used on Instagram.
Interesting. Okay. Robin is saying speak soon. Cool. What about videos, Aaron? Are you doing videos at all, or have you looked into that?
Yeah, great question. So our ultimate goal is to be there. If I'm being totally honest, we're not the best video place right now. We can do a basic 360 video, but we don't advertise this currently because it really depends on what the product is and what type of video you're wanting. And so right now we're really doing this on a trial basis with people who really need it. We're not really pushing it from the front because it is just a different thing altogether than what we're currently doing. But we do have a couple guys on staff who are great video editors. And my videos, they're not great videos, but we did it just in a day. We went to before we had our own studio, some random, studio in a small lane and shot the, basic 360 stuff. But short answer is we can do it, but we're probably not the best option for video.
Right. I think some people in our group, especially, they were also asking to do videos, not only of the product, but of maybe go to the factory and shoot a video of, people working on the product or artisans. So yeah, I think that would be interesting as well.
If you had, video clips, especially from your supplier, like we can take those clips and make a good brand video for you because we've got a talented editor. But what most people have in mind is like these, crazy commercial type videos of someone walking into a coffee shop and, using the product. And like, we're really not set up to do that. But like, if you're talking about compiling clips and like talking about the brand or showing the product, like we can do that.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what people really are talking about, Aaron, is, to sort of give off the sort of brand story. Because most of our the V shows we've done in the past, we've brought, a story to life of certain sort of factories and what they make. And a lot of people maybe have looked at it and said, hey, there's a certain brand story here. How can I bring that to life? Without sort of video or, sort of those things, it's pretty hard. And that's where, sort of someone like you can fit into the wheel. And especially because you're in India or you've got a base in India, that can make it easy for people to put that piece of the jigsaw together.
Right. So we're on the verge, Kevin. Hopefully.
Good. Yeah.
When we're back in India, this is something that I'm intentionally focusing on growing. It's just we're a little early on.
Yeah.
But
yeah, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that differentiates India from products from China or other countries, and that you have a story behind the product, and you can showcase that story. Another thing that I read recently about was GIFs. So I think Liran posted it somewhere in one of the Facebook groups just yesterday. People are using GIFs, especially in branded content. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
A major, a beer company or something hired a chief GIF officer. So this is like the new wave of marketing. It's like coming up with viral GIFs. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes into effect.
Yeah. GIF.
Personally, I love, when you're on the phone and you sort of just randomly, you're sort of in the conversation and a GIF just pops up and you go, how good is that a fit with what I'm just talking about? So imagine like when he's selling stuff on Amazon and then you sort of got these GIFs that it sort of plays with your video or your bullet points or whatever. Yeah, to me, it sounds really cool.
Yeah. So Nahid, yes, the replay will be available on this post itself. So we're about to wrap up now, and then you can watch the video. Okay, Josh is how'd you get your hair to look so good? You have to answer this now, Aaron.
One time this guy assumed that I used gel in my hair, and I got offended. This is all natural. This is no product, nothing.
Michelle. Thanks, Team
Pure,
IST.
pure Arkansas hair. Yeah.
Big Suey, baby. Woo! No one probably understands that. That's okay. That's just a mistake.
Okay, awesome. So, guys, this is Aaron's email address, aaron@ecommercewala.in. Reach out to him for photography, especially if you're sourcing from India, because, as he said, his team is based in India, in Hyderabad. So, it's really very convenient to just ship your product from your supplier directly to Aaron. And yeah, that's it. What's your website, Aaron? Is it ecommercewala with a hyphen?
Well, so we've got two. It's ecommercewala.in, or you can do e-commercewala.com.
Okay.
Either one.
Either one. Okay, so ecommercewala.in. That's the website. Lots of information.
And
the
feel free
price.
to reach out. If I can't help you, I'll try to point you in the direction of someone who can, or even if it's not photograph related. I'm a connector. It's what I get passionate about. And so if I can provide value, then I'll try to do it.
Are you still sourcing as well, or not at all now?
I personally do not. Like I'm still connected to our sourcing company, Bright Hope, but I pass everything off that I get in that realm. So maybe I'll add the caveat: if you're asking about sourcing, maybe don't email me, because I get a lot of that's not what I do. But I will happily connect you to someone who does. But yeah.
Yeah, contact Josh if you're looking for sourcing.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, well, we've got some really good sourcing people within the group now, with sort of Josh and Sam Source and Rajat from Panorama. So it's a pretty good team, sort of, really, isn't it? Of people that are connected. And now what you're doing, Aaron, that's another for all the folk that are sort of dealing with India. Now the picture is becoming a bit clearer for everybody, and it's sort of connected. And
right, that's really why we started this, is because we saw an opportunity to kind of fit a need or a need that India really didn't have a good option for. So there's great sourcing partners with the India sourcing network already, and so we're just hoping to add an extra value add in this area. Yeah,
for sure.
And I think for people who are just starting out and maybe only ordering 200 or 300 products, you cannot afford to go and spend $2,000 with some of the big photography gurus in the States for 200 or 300 photos. I mean, Aaron's price is really, a good, I think, price. And to me, I've seen a lot of his work with people that I know have used him, and I'm very impressed with it all. So to me, there's no need to go off and spend $2,000. Look, if you turn it into a multi-million-dollar product, you can, go and get a few more shots done later if you want to go into something with, models that are, on site and all sorts of stuff like that. But I think it's a good starting point for all the people who are just doing their first product and don't know if it's going to work, don't know, how much, and they're on a tight budget. They don't want to go and blow $2,000 or something on photography. So I think, be sensible, and you can always add to it later with your, different lifestyle shots, on location, whatever you want to do, if you get to that point.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, Aaron, you know Indian products, because you've been there sourcing, you've been to factories, it's in your blood. You've got a really good sort of feel for the India lifestyle, and what goes with what, and that's what we sort of love about the whole thing. And it is about connecting people with the right thing and doing the right thing with the right product. And a lot of people we know, they say, oh, that's a real sort of China sort of product versus what is an India type product. And so, all the Indian sort of products all got that sort of color, vibrance. It's made by a person. It's sort of it's nearly a living sort of thing. It's not come off a machine. It's not manufactured by the millions or something. It's a living thing that someone has either created or passionately put together by a community in India. And they're all family that have all worked hard to make a living, to survive from week to week or month to month, to produce that particular product. And that's the whole thing about India. And that's what we love about it all. And that's what we're passionate about, is sort of, bringing there. And if you can get that product and make it come alive with, beautiful photographs that you're not going to charge me the world for, I love you, Aaron.
Hey, come on, brother. Hey, Jay Him.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I think Kevin, you're right. I mean, each product, of course, is unique, especially if it's handmade. Each item is unique, and
Yeah.
they does have a personality. I think these products do
Yeah.
have their own personality. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I also have to add that Aaron has done photos for my listing as well, and I was really happy with the outcome. And that's one of the reasons we decided to promote Aaron as well. We did a
The
test
first time,
ourselves
Douglas,
first.
But I didn't have to correct you on that.
Yes.
At the time, she's like, I was really, quite pleased. It's like Megala, like oversell it a little bit. Like you were blown away, right? So,
Yeah, I'm learning. Okay, cool. All right, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of this great information.
Thank you
It was
guys for having
absolutely
me.
wonderful.
It's a pleasure.
That's all right, Aaron. Absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for all the information. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Catch you soon somewhere, probably in Turkey, maybe.
I'll be in North Macedonia next.
I like Kevin's hairstyle. Who is this person?
Who is this person? Tell us your name.
No name.
Tell us your name.
Like
We won't end this video until we know your name.
No. I want to know.
They're not going to tell you, Kev.
They're not going to tell you.
You've got a secret admirer.
Yeah. Oh, it's
It's
Mano.
It's Mano.
Hey, I'll hop up here, but thanks again for having me on.
Yeah.
We'll talk soon.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Thanks a lot, Aaron.
Take
Bye.
care in Turkey, mate.
Okay, that was cool. That was cool.
That was
So,
really good.
yeah, Mano from India.
Mano from
Okay,
India.
so I think we can wrap up now. We'll see everybody next Wednesday. And just as a reminder, again, we announced when we started the webinar that this is going to be held on the 30th and the 31st of October. And one of the days, most probably Friday or the 30th, we're going to do in the evening of Australia and Asia time. And that's going to be in the morning of UK. So good timing for folks in the UK.
And isn't it?
Yes.
And isn't it Diwali?
Yes.
So it's a special time for people. Come
Yes,
on, Megla,
I
you tell
totally
us.
forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. This is going to be a special episode where we're going to celebrate Diwali. So Diwali is one of the major festivals in India. It's coming up in November. It's on November 14th. So we're going to be celebrating Diwali, and Marg and Kevin are going to be dressed in Indian clothes. So Marg is going to be wearing a sari.
Work out how to get it on and do it up.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. YouTube videos.
And I'll be looking like the Indian Prime Minister.
Yeah, and
Okay,
Kevin is going to be wearing a kurta, and he's actually
I want to get
shopping
one of
now.
those, I want to get one of those really nice scarves. You see those scarves?
Yeah, the
And
long
sort of long
scarves.
scarves. Yeah, that's really cool.
So guys,
Anyway,
join us.
people can
for a
send in
special.
what. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a good time.
Yes, it'll be awesome. Okay, guys, so we'll see you next Wednesday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.